February 23rd, welcome back to Edgework. I'm Zack Phillips, closing out the week here with So Money as well as Alex B. Smith. We got 3 games on the NHL schedule here tonight. We'll break down all 3 of the games, give out best bets if we've got them, look ahead to the weekend, as well as look around the NHL at some storylines going on right now and see how these gentlemen are feeling about their teams. But before we can get into all of that, I want to remind people that today's show, as always, is sponsored by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is by using multiple sports books and always getting the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp to help you do so. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book, whether it's for games, futures, or player props. You can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Make sure to download the app today. It is available on iOS, Android, as well as on the web. And if you are looking to sign up for new sportsbook accounts, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/edgework. That's betstamp.app/edgework. If you sign up through this link, it does help support the show. It is available in the description, whether that's on YouTube or podcast form. As we know, we do have plenty of podcast listeners. So for those of you out there who are looking, betstamp.app/edgework. Type that in your search bar or click the link. It does help support us here. But, gentlemen, this might potentially be the worst week in Edgework history. If you look at our record from Monday through Friday here, I mean, Friday obviously has not yet concluded, but Monday through Thursday of our picks, it's not like we have been in some colossal downfall where we're losing every single night by crazy amounts. But, 3 and 4 nights, 2 and 3 nights, whatever it is, it's just been a little bit of a losing week for us here, and another one there last night. 3 and 4 yesterday, slight loss on the night. That'll bring us to 254, 255, and 5 on the season. That's 515 bets, and now sitting only at a 5% ROI relative to where we were, closer up to 7% to start this week off, up now 25.9 units on this season. So, Money, what do you make of this week that we've had here? Is this just bad variance? Is this some of the NHL teams that we need to adjust to and how they're playing coming back from All-Star break as we head into the trade deadline? What's going on here on the show, and how do we turn this around?
Well, I mean, I can only speak on my process, right?
Mm.
I've got no problem with the process right now. I think that there's a lot of bad luck. You can point to the Devils game yesterday as a bad play. I don't think they played bad, but I mean, they are what they are, right? You're either going to get they will be able to push play in most of their games, and you're either going to get average goaltending, which is going to be enough for them to win, or you're going to get below NHL level goaltending. And you should know that going into the game with the Devils. So I mean, you look at their game score, and I don't think they played bad. I thought that Igor was outstanding in the game, and that's just the way it is, right? Like maybe in hindsight, it probably should not have been a full regular play on the Devils, just because we know who they are, and like you gotta adjust. Just like it wasn't a full play on the Vegas under, just because we know what they're doing at this point of the season, right? So, I mean, it's those kind of little points. It's not so much the play itself, um,
Mm-hmm.
but but sometimes you just got to be prepared to like know who you're dealing with at this point of the season, and we know who the Devils are.
Right. Well, Alex, I mean, we talk about on this show, we're having a little bit of a tougher week as a collective here, as a group. But I mean, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. I saw you hit home on plus 490 winner the other day. I believe it was Austin Matthews 2+ against the Arizona Coyotes. How's your week been going? And what went into you picking that, giving out that pick the other day?
Yeah, well, I feel kind of bad. I mean, it sucks. Obviously, we want the whole group to do well throughout the week, but this has kind of been one of my best weeks of the entire regular season. As you mentioned, I hit plus 490 with Austin Matthews scoring 2 goals. And here's the process, right? Everybody was looking for Austin Matthews to get a goal, period, so he can get to 50. Well, the other thing was that if he could get 2 goals to get to 350 in his career. So I figured 2 goals as opposed to everybody jumping all the way across and going 20-1 for a hat trick or laying $1.35 for him to just get 1 goal. I just figured that's a sweet spot right in the middle at plus 490. A lucky bounce off of his neck and off of another Coyotes player ended up getting that second goal after an absolute beauty of a snipe for that first goal that he had to get to 50. So it just kind of worked out that way, and just now it's a bit of a lucky break. Obviously, when you're looking at 2 goals, that's something you just don't hit every day. But I've been hitting a few more goal scorer props of late. Draw season's been in full effect. We've cashed a bunch of those. You got a team like Boston that's been on 4 games past regulation in a row, and I hit a couple of those this week. So I've had a wonderful week as far as betting goes. So it just happens like that. Sometimes you have these ebbs and flows, and I had kind of been struggling a little bit heading in this week, but this has been a more than profitable weekend for myself and my clients and viewers of other programs.
All right, well, now it's time for us to bring that all together here and close out the week strong. And as much as we talk about some of the negative, how we've had this tougher week here, so Money and Alex, we slowly kind of got through this one here to this Friday. Let's turn things around. Let's go positive vibes only. Positive spins on everything we touch on throughout the remainder of the day. We're going positive into this weekend. It's a Friday. There's 3 games on the NHL schedule tonight. We didn't get screwed with just 1 game here or no games on a Friday. We got at least 3, which is less than optimal, but we got at least 3. And let's go out with a bang. Let's go with a couple of winners. So if you are watching right now, you enjoy the show, please hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel. If you like the thumbnail for today, hit that like button. If you've got recommendations for what you want to see going forward, send them in the chat, tweet at us. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to our friend who comes in the chat, Peter Panic, who somehow whipped up these incredible t-shirts. It looks like we're going to be trying to find a way to get some of those to us. Joey Knish even hopping in. Joey Pucks, as some of you may know him as, trying to get some for himself. So appreciate the chat, appreciate the support in the community that we've built. But let's just continue the positive vibes going out here this weekend. And let's start here with the Columbus Blue Jackets Buffalo Sabres game. What a treat of a game here tonight, gentlemen. Positive vibes only. We're not going to complain about this. We've got hockey on our TVs. The Columbus Blue Jackets plus 125 hosting the Sabres here tonight. Buffalo minus 132 and a total of 6.5 for this game. Alex, we'll start with you here tonight. What are your thoughts on this game? Do you have any bets here? Do you have any bets on the total? What do you got for us?
I do. I like the over in this matchup, and you look at the series history. It's been high scoring affairs for the most part, a lot of back and forth action, and these are 2 teams that more than likely, well, we know Columbus, their fate's pretty much sealed. They're going to be a lottery team. Buffalo, more than likely, is going to find themselves on the outside, looking in yet again and missing a postseason. But these teams still have some effort and some fight, and like I said, they don't have much defense. So when you have that, and you're only laying between $1.16 to $1.25. on the 6.5, I think we can see 7 or more goals in this contest. So this should be a fun one, and I like the over here. I'll play it for half a unit.
Half a unit, over 6.5. Best price available, minus 116 available across the Canby books there. We will lock that in. Again, we'll recap all these at the very end, so don't worry about that. And you can find us over in the BetStamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ as well. But so Money, we lock in our first play of the day here. We grab a half unit on this over 6.5. What are your thoughts on this game tonight? How do you kind of foresee this one going? And do you have any bets yourself?
Well, I'm just glad that there's a game on to watch, right? We're trying to keep it positive.
Positive.
Yeah, I mean, look, I touched on this a couple of days ago. Buffalo is starting to actually tighten up defensively. They're especially the last couple of games, the score doesn't always indicate what's going on in the game, right? And like we saw even in that Anaheim game that went over on Monday, I believe, that was a pretty low event game, and like that's where that Buffalo is playing right now. They are starting to tighten it up. I just don't think it's been reflected in the market yet. That being said, and I think this is where Alex's handicap comes in too. How can you bet a Columbus under at this point, right? Like they're a team that as much as Buffalo wants to tighten it up, Columbus has a lot of fuck it factor with them right now too, right? So like they're just we saw in that Anaheim game, like they're just playing pond hockey, right? So like it's tough to even though I believe that there's an edge in terms of the numbers in the market on the under, Columbus is not a team that I want to be betting unders on, right? So for that reason, I will pass on this game. Buffalo laying that price on the road. A few weeks ago, I mean, I would have been like, "There's no reason for Buffalo to be laying that number." I don't even care if it's in Columbus or like Chicago, anywhere, right? Um, but Buffalo is actually playing pretty well, right? And so I think that number is fair. It's really tough at this point of the season for me to get a gauge on a team like Columbus and what kind of mind frame that they're going to come into the game as well. We're at that point of the season where you do need to be careful with teams like Columbus. So for those reasons, I will be sitting this game out.
All right, we'll continue to move on here. We got two more games left on the schedule, so we will jump on over to Alex's Chicago Blackhawks plus 228 here tonight against Winnipeg. Winnipeg minus 260, a total of 5.5. Alex, we'll let you kind of close this one out, but first to toss this one over to So Money, just thoughts on this game here tonight, and is there anything from a betting perspective that you might want to jump in on?
Yeah, so we got a 5.5, right? And so is this a situation where you have where these two teams warrant a 5.5, right? Winnipeg, if you look at Winnipeg throughout the season as a whole, yes, they do warrant 5.5, right? But if you zoom in a little bit on them, they are starting to get leaky defensively, right? So now the question becomes: is Chicago the type of team that's going to be able to that's going to be able to capitalize on that? Usually, I would say no. However, right, they do have Bedard back, and we are seeing a little tick up on their offensive chance generation with that. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that the 5.5 is too low right now for these teams. Again, a couple of weeks ago, you showed me a 5.5 in this game, I would have been all over the under. I would say that yes, this is a special situation where both these teams warrant a 5.5. Tonight, I don't. And also, you look at Chicago. Chicago's another team where if you look at them throughout the whole season, they would warrant a 5.5, but they've been considerably leaky the last few games, more so than they have been throughout the season, right? So I think that the way that these two teams are headed defensively, I don't think that we should be at a 5.5 here. So for that reason, I did play the over. I believe you can get plus money still right now, right?
Yeah, pretty widely available too.
Yeah. So a plus money 5.5. I would recommend that.
All right, there you go. Plus money 5.5. We're gonna grab a plus 104 on that bet. We will lock that one in here. Alex, these are your Chicago Blackhawks. Close this one out for us on this game. What are we looking at here tonight, and what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm kind of intrigued at the fact that so many likes the over 5.5. You mentioned Connor Bedard coming back, and Connor Bedard has done literally all of the heavy lifting since he's returned from his broken jaw injury. So if you like an over 5.5, you might want to take Bedard over 2.5 or over 3.5 points, because who else on this Blackhawks team is going to find a goal? Is the real question. The under has trended heavily here, 2-7-1 the last 10 meetings. You've had a Jets team, like I said, it's kind of been up and down with their scoring a little bit. But like I said, a little bit leaky defensively. That would be problematic against some other teams. Against a team that literally has one player contributing offensively and maybe helping out with a couple of other guys on his line. I don't see where the goals coming in here. So I don't like under 5.5 anyway. I didn't play under 5.5, but I wouldn't be playing over 5.5 here either. I would probably be staying away from this total and just looking for some spots in game. These are always tight contests. These two teams, they are rivals. They hit each other a lot. So this is a game for me where I have circled. I'll be looking for maybe the Hawks can, if they do find a way to get a goal early, I just come back and grab Winnipeg at a little bit of a smaller adjusted price money line, and they find a way to come back and win. That's exactly how it worked last time. Hawks had a 1-0 lead for about 45 minutes, and all of a sudden, Mrazek, after making a ton of saves in a row, ended up giving two quick goals up in the third, and they end up losing 2-1. So I can see the same kind of event happening tonight at the United Center.
All right, well, final game of the night here. We'll take a look at in Alex's backyard in Minnesota there, the Wild, or with a team from his backyard in Minnesota there, excuse me. The Minnesota Wild traveling to Edmonton to take on the Oilers here tonight. Edmonton minus 177. the Wild plus 160 and a total of 6.5 in here in this game tonight. Alex, what are your thoughts on where this Minnesota team is at right now, how they've been playing lately, and the price that they're getting here tonight against the Oilers?
Yeah, people, I mean, around town are buzzing. You know, the win, obviously that crazy 10-7 win against Vancouver. You know, that gave some life and energy to the town, and people think, hey, this team could maybe make a run and grab a wild card spot. Now, I don't know about all of that. They still got some issues, and they still got to clear up a lot of things. All the teams they needed to lose last night ahead of them in the wild card race got victories. So, and regulation victories at that. So, that's going to be a tough hurdle for them to climb. And now you got to play an Edmonton team. We know how hot they've been lately. So I like goals here in this game. I actually, and I usually don't play these too often, but I'm looking at an over 2 in the first period. In this contest, you get plus 105. I see at BetMGM and a couple other shops. You might have to kind of shop around and look within your book to find that number if it's just 1.5 is kind of steadily available. But I like over 2. I think we can see 3 or more goals in this. Just kind of looking back at the history here, we've seen 3 and 1 to the first period over, and in 2 of those, we've seen goals, 3 goals and 4 goals within the first 20-minute span. So I think we can see a higher scoring game here, especially if Calvin Pickard is starting in Edmonton. So that's something else you want to kind of look for a confirmation on as well. But I think we get goals here, especially early in this contest.
All right, well, the over 2 in the first period there, we'll lock that in. So, Money, what are your thoughts on this game tonight and where this line is currently sitting at?
Yeah, I think we're pretty fair here. Oilers should be at this number with the way that they've been playing, and the over being juiced at the 6.5. That's an interesting look for me because Minnesota. So firstly, you just throw away that 10-7 game, right? Like there's nothing you can take from it. It's just like the way that I like have it on my sheets. Like it just doesn't exist, right? Like that game never happened, right? So now you look at what Minnesota has been doing. They've actually been, again, the scores don't indicate it, the final scores don't say this, but they've actually been playing pretty well defensively based on where they've been earlier in the season and where they're trending right now. The problem is their goaltending has dipped considerably. They're not getting the same caliber goaltending anymore from either of their guys, right? So that's the reason why we're seeing the scores being elevated while the game scores that I track, they're not. They show as a team that should not have a 6.5 total. That's juiced to the over, right? But I can't. There's no reason for me to go against the goaltending that they've been getting, right? So like, especially against a team like Edmonton that can generate a ton, you're just going against you're just going against what you're seeing, right? So for those reasons, I will not be playing this game. I am interested to see how it plays out in terms of how Minnesota, the way that they've been wanting to tighten up defensively, how they can do that against the Oilers. So that's something that I'm looking for.
All right, well, there you go. That'll do it for the games for tonight. That'll do it for our best bets. Now, gentlemen, I did tell you ahead of time that I was going to ask you a couple of questions, but as I said off the top of the show, we're going to keep things positive. So we're going to spin these in a positive light, and I want to hear from you guys the optimistic outlook on these questions here. So, Alex, I'm going to start with you first and foremost.
Yeah.
We're getting closer and closer to the trade deadline here. You're a fan of the Chicago Blackhawks, so take us inside the GM's room for this Blackhawks team. This is an exciting time for pretty much every single team as you approach the deadline. If you're a team that's competing, you're going to be going out and looking to acquire players that can help you for some type of playoff run or a playoff push, whatever it may be. Gives you some optimistic outlook from that standpoint. If you're a team that's kind of waving the white flag and saying, hey, this isn't our year, or if you're a team that's on the bottom end looking to maybe go for it in the NHL draft or in the draft lottery and try to get that opportunity to go out and get your Macklin Celebrinis, this is your opportunity to give away players and retain picks and retain assets and prospects moving forward. So you're a Blackhawks fan, but let's say you're in this Blackhawks room. What is it that you're looking for this trade deadline that's going to send you in the right direction? What are the moves that you're going to be making? How are you approaching this deadline that's going to be giving the fans optimism and putting you on the right path here to turn this organization around and bring you back to the greatness that you saw when you had guys like Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane running the city?
Yeah, well, this team's got a lot of draft picks, right? So if you're replacing Kyle from Chicago with me, Alex B from Chicago, things I would do would be obviously maybe try to move around some of those lower level draft picks, see if I can, either try to maybe move up, and that's something that would be more of a draft day kind of a deal. But as far as the deadline goes, just kind of looking at cap friendly, looking at some pieces that can be moved. There's quite a few UFAs and RFAs that will be expiring at the end of the year, most notably being Tyler Johnson. Who is a $5 million cap hit. He's going to be a little bit trickier to move with certain teams, but this is a guy who obviously has tons of playoff experience, won 2 cups with Tampa Bay, really shows up more in the playoffs, in my opinion, than he does in the regular season. And I think he can be a really good clutch asset for a team looking to add a centerpiece, looking to add a depth piece to their lineup. So he's someone I would be looking to move. And Philip Kurashev, who has another year left, a solid guy who can give you some goals. He's, a sneaky scorer. He's not one of the just smoothest guys out there, but I think if you put him alongside some quality pieces, he kind of adapts to his surroundings. He's a guy I could see fit in well with a team like a Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh desperately needing some offense. You put him around a Crosby or a Brian Russ, I think his game could elevate another level. So those are 2 guys I would be looking to move. The third guy you mentioned in that would be Anthony Beauvillier, another guy who was kind of brought in to give some kind of keep the Hawks away from the cap floor. And when Taylor Hall got injured, he hasn't really done too much, 4 goals and 10 assists on the season. But I think, once again, he's another veteran piece that could help out a team that just needs a little push of help. He's not going to be a guy that completely moves the needle for a playoff contender. And I definitely think he's the guy who can help bring some, at least a quality asset back. And of course, it goes without saying, I don't know if any team would take him. He certainly wouldn't help anybody for the playoffs. But if we could find a way to move Arvid Soderblom, then that would just be fantastic for the future moving forward. He's still got a year left on his contract, which is just
no, Alex. This is not a future thing. You're looking for your own mental health and happiness right now with that move.
If I could trade him right now, I would.
yeah, exactly. All right, fair enough. All right, well, there you go. A little bit of breakdown of the Chicago Blackhawks and what might be going on there. What Alex might be looking for them to do ahead of this trade deadline, or at this trade deadline this year. Now, so money. People can talk about this being a dark time for the Canucks here. 4 straight losses. You see the Bruins catch up there. Now they're tied at the top, 80 points each. But we're not going to go down that route, all right? You look over into the West. The Canucks are still in first place in the West. They're still in first place in the Pacific. They've got a 10-point lead over the next closest team. These are the positives that we've got to be looking at. But on top of that, something you had talked about over the last little while, adversity. We need some adversity. You need some regression now so that it doesn't hit in the playoffs. Let's spin this positively. Is this the right amount of regression? Is this what you were looking for? Is this how it is? Is this team learning, and how are they going to use this to benefit them moving forward as you approach the playoffs and then into the playoffs?
So I'm not even spinning this when I say that this is a good thing, right? I genuinely believe that what's happening right now is very good, right? So like, you can talk about regression coming in the playoffs, and like, obviously that'd be devastating. But can you imagine the regression happening after the trade deadline, right? So like, you've been coasting right up to the trade deadline. You feel that nothing is wrong. We're good. We have all the pieces, and you don't do anything at the trade deadline, right? Like, and then the regression comes, and now what are you supposed to do, right? So so this is a very good thing right now. It makes it even better that Vegas is losing, right? So like, the Canucks have lost 4 straight games, but they still have a double-digit lead in their division. If Boston wants to go out and win the President's Trophy, go ahead. Florida, Dallas, Rangers, go win the President's Trophy. I don't give a shit. I only care about the division, right? It's very, very important this year for the Canucks to win that division, right? And the other thing that this kind of bit of a slide has shown us is that what we've been talking about the last few weeks, in the sense of like, yes, the losses are going to start coming and it's because of these reasons, we are seeing those reasons play out in those losses. So specifically, right, um we still need a top six forward, right? It's either going to happen internally with someone like Baines, possibly, right? Or they need to go out and get a top six forward. And where I'm very hopeful and where my positivity comes in is that if I can sit here saying that we still need a top six, you sure as hell believe that Rutherford and Alvin see that as well, right? And they've shown obviously that they're not shy to go and make the moves and go make it happen, right? So if we can see we need a top six, they can too, right? There's some injuries on defense. Even with the guys back, I would still like to see some depth, right? Um, and it's not so much um, just in terms of like back end guys, but again, I go back to a guy like Tanev, right? Like at this point, like I know Calgary wants a first rounder. We don't know what's going to happen, right? Like there might be a team like around the trade deadline that's very desperate, and they're going to give them the first rounder. So, and if that happens, then like all the power to them, right? But
Yeah.
we see that right now this adversity has shown us that the needs that we have are still there. They still need to be addressed, and while that's going on, the teams behind us are not able to catch us. So it's actually a perfect scenario right now. The Canucks can go lose out the rest of their games, I don't care, as long as they win the division.
All right. Well,
I get
there
that.
you go. Some Canucks talk heading into the trade deadline here, heading down the stretch into the playoffs. It is a good thing that there is this adversity going on with the Canucks. I think that that's a good thing. To close this out, I'll give you guys a little Leafs perspective. I know Moretto is going to be shaking his fist saying this team, small sample size, you can't get overly excited. I agree. You can't be getting overly excited about what this Leafs team is doing right now. This is only a 6-game stretch. There's one thing I'm going to say to you guys about what's gone on with this team over the past 6 games. That's basically something I have not seen for 7 years, and I did not see for about 45 games or whatever it was, 49 games going into this stretch here over the last 6 games. And that was this buy-in terms of we're not going to get pushed around. We're not going to be scared of these net front scrums. We're not going to be scared of corner battles from the entire lineup, top to bottom. Now, I'm not saying Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander are the first people to jump into those situations. I'm not saying that they're going to go out there and fight. They're not. That would be insane to say that or suggest that that would be the case. They're just not. I don't have that expectation. But I watch Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander go into a scrum and not be the first guy that the camera cuts to as they skate back to the bench while a fight's going on in front of the net. They're standing there at least with the guys, and maybe I'm overreacting to it as a Leafs fan who just hasn't seen this for 7 years, but that's the kind of buy-in that I just haven't seen. And to start to see that now, where it's like that level of trust that your teammate is going to stick up for you as well, your teammate's going to be involved, he's going to have your back, kind of feels like it's giving these guys a little bit more confidence, and there's just more of a team atmosphere than there is of, oh, Matthews will score 60 goals and Marner will get 100 points and Nylander will score 35, 40, and then you're good to go. And hopefully this works for us in the playoffs, because it hasn't and it never will. So you need a team game, and it kind of feels like we're starting to get to a point where it's like, hey, maybe there is like a team element here. It's only 6 games. It's a small sample size. I want to see it continue for a lot longer. I'm not talking about winning out the rest of the season and not losing another game for this Leafs team, but like, play the way that you've been playing. And even if you're losing games, I think people in Toronto will be happy to see that effort. And I think it'll pay off in the playoffs. So that's kind of where I'm at with this Leafs team right now in this stretch that they're on.
So basically, what I'm hearing is that you think it's going to be a Leafs Canucks final.
The country of Canada might not survive if that happens. So money. that would be insanity if that went down.
I think
mean,
that
would be fun.
I think that the Edgeworth chat will be ripped to shreds as well.
Yeah, that would be
I
nuts.
know. I know, I know. um, it would be ridiculous, especially considering Matt Russell told us he's not a fan, he's not a fan, and now all of a sudden the Canucks,
He's a
they're
fan.
on this heater. He's a fan. He's a fan. Come on, yeah. And final question here, Charles saying Leafs adding at the deadline. If you ask me and you ask Brad Treliving, those are very different questions and probably very different answers. I think their plan all along was to add at this deadline. I don't know if it'll be massive, but I think that they add. Personally, I don't go crazy at this deadline. I think it's tinker more than it is go nuts on these trades that they've made in years past. But yeah, I think that they add. That'll do it for today's show.
Can we
Let's recap. Yeah.
sorry, one more thing. There was a question in the chat, right, about if the Canucks don't win the division. It was
Oh,
Ron's
I see it
question
here.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So this is very interesting because Tocchet is the heavy favorite right now. If the Canucks win the division, then obviously Tocchet gets it, right? I don't think there's any way around that. But I do believe that there is a path for him not to get it, and that path would be that if the Canucks don't win the division, and if they go in the tank to end the season, right? So like if they finish like third, for example, in the division,
Yeah.
I don't think Tocchet gets it, right? So then that brings up who else would be that makes if the Flyers make the playoffs, that makes Tortorella live, right? If and Winnipeg too. I don't think Winnipeg is going to sustain where they are right now, but if Winnipeg wins their division and the Canucks don't, then that makes bonus have tons of value right now.
Yeah, if you have a Tocchet ticket in pocket already, then adding some Tortorella and some bonus would definitely make sense. But definitely Tortorella. I think, like you said, if something were to happen where the Canucks have some kind of a fumble late in the year, and along with the Flyers being able to sustain and make the playoffs, and not just as a wild card either, they make the playoffs in that third spot or even some way find a way to get that home ice in the first round, then that definitely, I think, makes Tortorella the winner of that. So it's kind of a two-horse race, I feel like. But you could bonus as well, especially the adversity he dealt with in the middle of the year, having to leave the team for a bit. And if they come back and win the division, yeah, both of those guys seem fairly live, even just to have tickets, because, of course, you got 3 finalists. So right now, Tocchet, bonus, and Tortorella seem like the finalists heading in, regardless of who wins. So, yeah, having those in pocket heading into June makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then you look at the Flyers' path, right? Like they're third in their division right now, but you look at the teams around them in terms of the wild card, as well. We know that the Islanders are flawed, Pittsburgh's flawed, Jersey's flawed, Washington is flawed, Tampa Bay is showing that they can't possibly get to that next step. Detroit, I think Detroit's probably in that bunch. I think Detroit's the better team, and that says a lot, right? Because I don't think Detroit is a shoo-in for the playoffs, but yet I'm still classifying them as the better team of that bunch. So there is a path here for the Flyers.
These guys are coming in hot and heavy here at the very end. Sorry, I was just trying to see if I could find some odds for these, but you guys are coming in ready to go here at the end of the show. So we will answer these questions here.
Let's do it.
We also do have a super chat here from our friend Poji Jen Stoner there. Thank you for that. It says for the hot chip challenge. I don't know if you had maybe missed it or what happened, but it is unavailable here in Canada. So Money, I don't know if you heard that you cannot get it. They took it off the shelves because of people were being severely injured from
People were
the hot
dying.
chip. Yeah, people were dying from the hot chip. So you literally just can't buy it in Canada. And at this current moment in time, I don't have the ability to go down to the US and get it. We can't even order it from the US to Canada. They wouldn't even let me do that. So I can't get
sure
it.
we can figure
but we
something
will
out.
use this.
Why doesn't
we'll
Kanish
use
drop
this
it
for a
off?
different challenge. Pardon?
Why doesn't Kanish just come drop it off?
Yeah, right. That guy will not be anywhere near Toronto. He will not come here. But yeah, we'll use this towards another challenge. I have to own up to losing that bet, and we will find something else to do so don't worry. But thank you for the super chat there. Questions here that you guys are firing away at. Brian asking, not saying this is in response to last night's win for the Kraken, but is the best future bet Kraken to make playoffs a good look right now? Currently at about plus 300. That's what I was just trying to look around and see what other odds I could find out there at some other books, but Kraken to make the playoffs. I mean, Alex, I'll start with you. I know that you've got some Kraken stuff, and you were
Yeah.
one of the predictions that you had going into the season was kind of Kraken heavy. So where are you at on that bet as it stands
Oh,
right
yeah.
now?
I mean, like I said, I'm standing. I have a Kraken Pacific Division ticket that's pretty much dead, and then I have a Western Conference and a Stanley Cup future that are dwindling. So I would obviously love to see them make the playoffs, and that is a big win for them to get some momentum. And they need to have another run like they did about a month and a half ago, where they went on that franchise long winning streak. They can kind of duplicate that, find a way to navigate through the weeds of the Minnesotas and St. Louis's and Nashville's in that wild card race, and find themselves in one of those final two spots. I could see that happening. Plus 300. It wouldn't be the worst bet in the world. There are worse bets to make, obviously, but it's something I wouldn't be personally adding because I'm already kind of pot committed to the Kraken from going back to the beginning of the year.
Right. I do see like a plus 340 out there as well. So make sure to shop around.
Shop
Like
around,
you can
yeah.
get a little bit better prices, but yeah. So money, where are you at with that price, that kind of range, and the idea of getting behind the Kraken to make the playoffs right now?
Yeah, I think it's a good look. You look at you always want to see what teams are around them right now, and the Kings. I don't know if they're going to address their goaltending, right? Like they are experiencing a little bit of a bump, but we basically saw the floor that their goaltending can get to, and if we start approaching that floor again, this team cannot generate wins, right? Um, and we've already seen that. So if they're not going to address their goaltending, then I'm going to lump them in with the Blues, with Nashville, with Minnesota, with Calgary, right? All those teams are flawed, right? So if you and Seattle, if they are getting the goaltending now, which they kind of seem to be, then there's no reason why Seattle doesn't get one of the last two wild cards.
And here's the thing, as far as grabbing that play at the best optimal price, you look at their next game tomorrow. They're at home against Minnesota, and then on Monday they're at home against Boston. Now, depending on how you feel they're going to go in those two games, maybe it should dictate when you make this bet. If you think they could maybe lose against Boston and maybe have a game go past regulation against Minnesota, wait until Tuesday after that Bruins loss to grab that price, because you're probably going to be looking at something that may be closer to 400. If you think they could sweep the next two games, grab that ticket now plus 300, because that price will probably shorten up to about 275, maybe even 250 if they can win those next two games. So I'd say have that kind of mind phrase. Maybe you give yourself a weekend to kind of play it over, depending on what you think is going to happen with the next two games to crack.
340 seems to be the best price that I could find available right now. That would be,
Okay.
I mean, whatever. I'll just say it. It's at FanDuel. They might, I know we have some friends of the show there who watch, so that one might be adjusted. So if you're going to look to bet it, maybe go quickly to that sports book. But otherwise, that'll do it for today's show. I appreciate all the questions that come in there. Appreciate the suggestions that people are sending. Also, by the way, I don't know if you guys caught this in the chat here. Our friend Peter Panic. You see that?
Yeah, look at that.
Scott. It's Moretto with his predator head on. Peter, thank you for designing the shirts. This is also an incredible picture that you've got there. And on top of that, Peter says if Knish crosses the border, you can keep him. Well, Knish does that over into Windsor, Ontario, and goes and destroys all of our local pro lines. So you can thank him for that if you're a pro line bettor in Ontario. That's no secret that he does that. I'm not ruining anything for him there. He's posted videos of him crossing the border and doing that. So that one's out there. But yes, he has made his way over into Canada. We've got 3 best bets for tonight in 3 different games, in all 3 games. So we've got a little bit of action and everything here. You can find these over in the BetSamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ. 3 best bets. First and foremost, Sabres Blue Jackets over 6.5 minus 116 there. Half unit on that one. Then we're going to go to the Jets Blackhawks over 5.5 plus 102. Full unit there. And finally, the Wild Oilers over 2 first period plus 127 full unit on that. So shop around, make sure to get the best prices available. Use the BetStamp app to help you find these. Thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. We do appreciate it. As always, appreciate the support. If you're looking for Saturday picks as well, you can head over to the Edgework HQ Twitter account. You see the full list tweeted out there that comes from our creators from Monday through Friday, their best bet for the Saturday slate of NHL games. Make sure to follow us on there, turn on notifications, like the video here today, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all the support to everyone out there. We'll see you guys back here Monday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, again with myself, So Money, and Alex B. So look forward to seeing you guys then. Alex, So Money, thank you guys for taking the time to do this here today. As always, greatly appreciate it. For everyone in the chat, thank you for the support. Enjoy the games tonight. Good luck on your bets.